Just to help you quickly recall, we talked about self comprising Atma and Anatma, and Atma is difficult to perceive. It's the subtlest, so we kept away from it. And then we started discussing all the Anatma. That's where we are. We talked about the Shariratrayam, the Panchakoshas, and the Avasthatrayam. So we talked about the 12 subtopics. That is 3 levels of depth in all the 4. And until we complete this, we would possibly not move on to others. That's why I have also deferred the quizzes, because I'll give one comprehensive quiz. It's like the annual exam, right? So after once I cover all the 12 parts, right? We are going about it in a very structured way. That's why the title of the session is our architecture 1, 2, and 3. We are right now on the 3rd, right? Impact of actions, which is called karma palam. We are now covering the 3rd level of depth as far as karma is concerned, right? This is an important understanding for us to move further towards the impact of Avasthatrayam and Panchakoshas, right? So deliberate action has a consequence, and that impact of action we call karma phalam, either visible or invisible, drishtapalam or adrishtapalam, right? Visible, immediately perceived and experienced, whereas invisible gets accrued, right? So visible manifests as pleasurable and painful, which is what we call sukham and dukkham. And invisible is again can be pleasurable and painful. It will manifest maybe at a later time. It's called as punyam and papam, right? So the moment we say punyam and papam, it means it is something that is yet to manifest, right? So there is a nice distinction between the visible and the invisible, right? Now, the experiences that we go through as a karma palam is across time. This is what we saw. This is a very quick recap, just to be sure we are on the same page. So 2 or 3 slides I'm going to repeat just to be sure we are on the same page. Some of you may not have gone through the PDF file and would have directly joined here, right? So accrued punya and papa, it's like the accrued interest in, say, a deposit or an investment that we make. Gets into, I'm using some technical terms here just for us to easily understand and map. I'm sure I'm using very common terms that all of us understand. So karma database, which is purely personal, accrued punya and papa, imagine that all the entries get into some kind of a karma database. And across time, this gets manifested either in this birth or future births. This is what we saw so far. Now we need to go one more level depth to understand this. Okay. Now, when you say this birth or next birth, is karma manifestation dependent on birth? No. The answer is no. The answer is a very clear no. The karma manifestation is dependent on time. Right? For example, I do an investment, say a 5-year investment, which is blocked for 5 years. The returns and the principal will return after 5 years. It's time-based, right? Similarly, certain things which are within 3 days, which I can liquidate, those investments will come back in 3 days, or it can come anytime that I prefer to liquidate it, right? It's available. So karma is nothing to do with births. Now, we need to understand this very well. Karma, you'll hear me repeat this a few times. Please put up with me. And the reason is this has to sink into each of us a lot, right? So you will hear me repeating this. Karma is connected to time scale, right? And there are only 2 aspects of time scales that we have to see. It's now or later. That's it. There's nothing else, right? If I slap someone and the person slaps me back, it's now. The person decides I will not slap Ranga now, but I will kill him after 1 week. It's going to manifest later, right? So it's going to manifest 1 week later. Right? Now, so there are only 2 things we have to keep in mind, now or later. Okay. The manifestation of the karma, which is called karma phala, the karma phala will manifest now or later. This later can be 1 minute, 1 day, 1 year, 10 years, 100 years, does not matter. Depending on the type of deliberate action that I did. Let me repeat. Depending on the type of deliberate action that I did, the manifestation time will change, right? And it changes on time. Where does birth and death come? The death can come anywhere. We are on a cycle, right? So the birth and death can come anywhere. Just to help you recap, I have shown time scale as linear here, even though in one of the earlier sessions, I said time is circular, right? So this is just for us to understand. Right now, I've brought it into a linear scale just for us to understand. So death can happen anywhere, right? For example, I have, say, a bank deposit which is maturing in 1 year, and I'm alive at the end of the 1 year. Then I get the benefit of it and I experience that returns. But if I pass out in 6 months, then I don't get to experience that in this birth. That's it, right? Or I plant a seed. The tree takes, say, 30 years to grow and give me the fruits. And if I survive the 30 years, it's manifesting, or the benefits of it, I'm enjoying it in this birth itself. What if I pass out in, say, the 15th year? Then someone else is going to enjoy the benefits of the seed or the tree that I planted, right? So I am not going to enjoy it in this birth. So death can happen anytime. Death can happen the next moment, right? Like I said, I slapped somebody and that guy decided that he'll slap me back 1 week later, and within that I pass out. Then the manifestation of that is going to happen in my next birth, but it has nothing to do with 1 year or 1 day or 1 minute. It has something to do with the time only, right? Death can happen now. Deaths keep happening. And when I say D, it is actually meaning birth and death, right? Because a death presupposes a birth, right? So I have not shown the birth there, right? I've shown only the death here. Now, certain times the deaths can happen too frequently. For example, there are children who are born and who die in 30 days, 20 days. And there are children who are born and they die the very next day. There are children who die in the womb of the mother itself, right? And there are people who survive for 100 years, right? So deaths can happen. In fact, even in plants, there are some plants that die off very soon. There are some insects that die off very soon, right? There are some species which live for 100 years. There are some species that live for 10 years. There are some trees that live for thousands of years, right? So the death can happen too frequently. Multiple deaths can happen too frequently, or there can be a huge time gap between one death and another death. That has nothing to do with the karma phala. The karma phala depends entirely on the nature of the karma that we did, and the manifestation according to dharmic rules will happen on the time scale. That's it. There is nothing to do with this birth, next birth. Let me give you one more analogy, right? Suppose I commit a huge karma and I have to experience that karma phala only as a human being. And what if the next few births of mine are non-human being births? In which case, I still have to wait for a human being birth for me to actually experience that. That means it's happening on a time scale which is far different, right? Now, there are millions and millions of questions related to karma, and everything can be explained logically, provided we focus on the fundamentals and we don't move away from the fundamentals. We stick to it, right? Fine. Because we said deliberate action. Let me just take an example of a question for you. Can I perform a karma in my dream? For example, in my dream, if I kill somebody, is it amounting to a karma? Will I have to experience the karma phala, right? Or in my dream, right, I do something else, which is very good, right? Will I enjoy the benefit of that karma? There can be thousands of questions that can be answered in a very simple way if you stick to the basics, right? The basic is karma is action. Karma is deliberate action. Every karma has a consequence. If we understand these basics very strongly, we ourselves will be able to answer many of the questions. For example, karma phala manifests as experiences we saw in the previous session. Experiences means what I need a body to experience. In dream, what body do I have? Right? So can I execute karma in my dream? I think we don't need to refer to huge books. We stick to basics. I think these answers will automatically come into our mind. Right? Now, so there can be a lot of questions related to this. And most of it, I want you to be able to answer it by yourself, which means we must have the foundation very strongly in place. Right? So the manifestation can happen only now or later. That's it. Everything is later. 1 minute is later. 1 year is later. Right? Let's not bring in birth and death here. And the karma phala manifestation has connection only to time. Nothing to do with birth and death. Birth and death keeps happening. So we'll keep going or plowing the death slowly. Right? Okay. Here I talked only about time scale. Is time scale the only thing that I should be worried about? No. Go back to even scientific work by Einstein. He said time and space. Even our scriptures talk about time and space. Even in the simple sankalpa that we do before a puja, we talk about everything related to time, everything related to space. Where am I doing the sankalpa from? What time am I doing my sankalpa? Everything is stated so clearly in sankalpa, right? So time and space are two variables. Here I've shown only the time. Let me bring in the next variable called space, right? Instead of looking at this as a time scale, you look at it as a time and space scale. So you will see that the scale has changed, right? Now is changed to here and now, right? That means I am in the space and I am now, and so I'm experiencing something here and now. Then I can experience something later, not necessarily here, it can be elsewhere also. Right? Now, what does it mean? Elsewhere. In the last decade, or maybe slightly more, there is a lot of work that has come out on parallel worlds, parallel universes, right? Books like Turning Point. I mean, I can possibly give a set of references in the WhatsApp group in terms of if you're interested in quantum physics and if you're interested to understand this from a physics side, right? People are talking about parallel worlds, and each of the worlds has a completely different time scale. Right? The Earth year is what we say. We normally, when we say year, we say Earth year. That means the time it takes for planet Earth to go around the sun once. Mars year is different. Jupiter year is different. Saturn year is different, right? And the moment you go into a parallel universe, maybe the whole solar system itself is different, and hence time scale is very different there, right? So the birth and death that we are actually talking about, just like how we said it can happen at different points in time on the time scale, it can also happen at different spaces, right? Because we are not looking at only one planet or one solar system or one galaxy. We are talking about a Jagat, right? And every event is happening in the Jagat totally, right? I think we need to understand this a little more deeply. I'll give an example. When we talk science very deeply, it's not that easy for people to follow, because you need to have a lot of pre-knowledge, prerequisite knowledge, right? So we converted everything into stories. We converted everything into characters. We converted everything into events so that people will understand the science behind it. But you don't have to talk about science at all. Let me take a quick example here, right? We talked about only two energies, two types of energies, matter and energy. Law of conservation of matter, law of conservation of energy, right? Matter cannot be destroyed or created, can be converted. Energy cannot be destroyed or created, can be converted from one form to another, right? And matter, when it is, it can become energy, and energy can become matter. Right? So how do you explain this to a common man? How do you explain this to somebody who possibly has not gone to school? Right? So we created Shiva and Shakti. Shiva, the matter principle, and Shakti, the energy principle. And we made them marry each other. Right? And then say Shiva and Shakti, which means matter doesn't mean anything without the energy. Energy doesn't mean anything without the matter. Just like how hardware doesn't make sense without the software, and software doesn't make sense without the hardware. Only when both of them together function, there's something else happening. Right? And in the same way, using the human intellect, we create a lot of things. Are we really creating? No. But we are producing a lot of things. For example, this tool, we created this laptop as a tool. We created the mic as a tool. We created cycle. We created aeroplanes. We created internet. Everything is born out of a human intellect. Now, anything that you can think of, whatever human mind can think of, can produce, right, has come out of what? Right? Has come out of a thought, has come out of an idea. Right? And that idea, to be executed, we need knowledge as to how to execute it. Like I want to build a satellite. Now I should have the knowledge to build a satellite. I should have the tools to build a satellite. Right? And if I want human people to build the satellite, I should have the communication ability to articulate to the group to be able to do it correctly. Which means the origin of anything we create is a thought, is an idea, right? And we just simply refer to it as Brahma. That's all. And without knowledge, you cannot create anything. Without power of articulation, you cannot produce anything. So we created a Saraswati and we made Brahma and Saraswati marry each other. Right? And that's a creation part. And anything that is created needs to be maintained. Maintained, where is it maintained? For example, I sent a satellite out to. It's not there only in planet Earth now. Our satellites are there in Mars. Our satellites are there roaming around wherever it is. It cannot go beyond our galaxy. It has to be maintained in our galaxy. It has to stay inside the galaxy. It has to be maintained in the galaxy. Right? And anything we create is of value. Right? It has a certain value. So we said anything that is valuable, anything that is worth something, we called it as wealth. And the wealth we gave a name Lakshmi. Right? And the person who's maintaining it, we call that person Vishnu. And where are they? They are in, we say, ocean of milk. So what is ocean of milk? A lot of scientists sent satellites there and they figured out that it's nothing but white, long space full of white things. So they gave a name Milky Way, the galaxy, right? So it's very simple. Anything that's created is destroyed. And when we destroy it, it becomes matter. When it is reconstructed, it becomes energy. So you say Shiva, you say Brahma and Vishnu, which is thought and knowledge. Then you say Vishnu and Lakshmi, which is wealth and protective energy. Then all this is not physical beings staying in some geographical location with a zip code or with a unique IP address operating and tracking our karmas. No, I think these are just to understand the science behind it, right? Which means there are spaces where the time scale is different, right? Example, I execute a big positive karma consistently. The karma pala cannot be experienced by me here. I have to have a very higher level of enjoyment, which is not available in planet Earth. But when we look at the whole intelligence of cosmos, we are not restricting ourselves to planet Earth. Planet Earth is a very tiny speck. In fact, if you look at the entire Jagat, 99.9% is empty space. Only 0.1% there's something called solar system and universes which are there, which is equally true for an atom, right? So it can manifest anywhere, right? Imagine you're traveling from one place to another place, okay? You can travel by an economy class, or you can travel by a business class, or you can travel Emirates Royal class. Now, what they give you as food in economy class and what they give you as drinks and food in, say, the Royal class are very different. right? And you've earned it. Right? It's not that you have been accidentally put into royal class. You have earned it and you're traveling that way, right? Same way, the kind of enjoyment you can have in this planet is very different from the enjoyment you can have in another universe, maybe, right? We call it Devaloka. It's just a name, right? I mean, to put it in lighter vein, the liquor you get in Devaloka is far superior to the liquor you get here. Call it Devabhana, right? Right? The men and women who are there are supposedly far more beautiful, right? You take any kind of a pleasure that we are talking about. Please don't ask me whether I have any personal experience. I am yet to reach those worlds that I'm sure I will reach there one of the days, right? And that time I'll conduct an episode from there for you. Okay, so season million, episode billion, right? So there are different spaces, right? And you can look at the negative side. I mean, there are worlds which are below earth. We call it Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Satala, Tala, Patala, Loka, where you go through the same. You did a big, huge negative act and you need to be punished. The kind of punishment that's available in this planet Earth is nothing compared to possibly some other world. Idea is simple. We are talking about layers of frequencies and where you can connect and what you can go through as an experience. That's it, right? If you stick to basics, I think many of the questions will get answered for ourselves, by ourselves, if you just sit and contemplate. But important to stick to the basics, right? So the manifestation can happen here and now, or the manifestation can happen later and here, which is in planet Earth, maybe in a different time scale. I may be alive, I may not be alive, which means it's either this birth or next birth, but it will happen later, or it can happen later and elsewhere. Now, whether you are traveling, very important point, I'm going to repeat it a couple of times. Whether you are traveling a royal class in a flight, or whether you are traveling an economy class in a flight, you are traveling still. The travel has not stopped. Right? That means you're still exhausting your karma pala, you're still having experiences, right? And if you possibly make a mistake there, you could come back to this place. And basically, everything is connected in this jagat. There's nothing that is disconnected. That's what we saw in the earlier session, right? So when we talk about manifestation, manifestation can happen here and now, or it can happen later and here, or it can happen later and elsewhere. And of course, death, which presupposes birth, is just an occurrence across the time scale. That's it. Right? I'm deliberately going a little deeper, very slowly. Right? For example, I plant a tree. It takes 40 years for the tree to grow and start flowering and fruiting, if I may use the word, right? And I'm not aware, I'm not alive to enjoy the fruits. My next generation is enjoying the fruit, right? And there are various questions. Good karmas done by me, will it affect the next generation? Whether it's good karma or bad karma, will it affect the next generation? All these questions can get very easily answered if we just stick to the basics, right? And I'm going to explore this very slowly so that we get the basics in place, right? The entire karma database, which is connected to a single jiva. Okay. Trillions of punyam and papam entries are there. And the moment you say punyam and papam, you know that it has been postponed to later. Because if it is now, you would have experienced it as sukham and dukham. It's already done and over. Okay. Because it is carried to later, we call it punya and papam. Right. And we have trillions of entries in the karma database, and there's no way we can even know what entries are there. Right? It's a highly read protected drive, right? I can't read what is inside that. Yeah, but we all carried trillions of entries there. Right? Now, what happens to those entries? Nothing. Punyams get manifested as pleasurable experiences. Papam gets manifested as painful experiences. Right? And we have to go through both. There is no setting off. Like I cannot set off a papam against a punyam. No, I've done two. It's like in accounting we say you made an error in book entry, you can't correct it. You have to pass a contra entry. right? And then you have to pass an opposite entry somewhere, right? So same way, if there's a punyam and if there's a pap, you have to enjoy the benefits of the punyam and you have to enjoy the benefits of the pap. It's actually both, and you cannot set off one against the other, right? You cannot say I committed a big sin and so I'm doing a lot of charity today so that you will experience the benefits of the charity independent of the benefits, I mean the experiences of the bad act that we did, right? Okay. Now, every sentence I speak, every slide that I show is highly prone to 100 more questions hitting your mind. And if they are hitting your mind, fantastic. I think you're with the flow, right? Please be with the flow, right? I think we are kind of going slowly into deeper areas, right? This entire database of all our punyam and papam collected over millions and trillions of janmas we've taken is what we call sanchita karma. I'm now introducing 3 terms. I am now slowly coming into the concept of karma trayam. Trayam means 3. So we need to understand what those 3 karmas are. Sanchita karma is the total baggage, complete baggage of all the trillions of punyam and papam entries which are there for us. Now, what happens when we are born? We take a small, every entry here must be exhausted. Okay. It must be exhausted. We have no choice. Every entry here must be exhausted. Till then, we are going to have experiences, right? How is every entry exhausted? Obviously, through experiences. So, you take a birth as, say, a tree. So, a single jiva becomes a tree. Your experiences, you cannot do further karma as a tree because there is no deliberate action for a tree. You can only exhaust karma as a tree. You cannot add a new karma because deliberate action is not there. Now, a tree is forced only to give. That's it. So it's exhausting that part of it. And the benefits of the fruits of this tree is enjoyed by everybody else, but not by the tree itself. That's a kind of birth. Or you may have a birth as an animal. Again, you cannot execute a karma because there is no deliberate action. All actions of animals are programmed. We have seen this enough in the sessions and also through the various PDFs. I have explained it several times. Please do not mind if we have the same question in the mind coming again and again and again. Please don't mind it. You know why? Because even if we hear something 100 times, it will not become clear. You have to keep listening to it. That's what is called Shravanam. That's why we keep requesting people to go back to the videos, watch it again and again and again and again. Because only when we do Shravanam again and again and again, the Mananam will come. Mananam is basically inquiry, asking more questions and trying to understand things deeply, right? So animals cannot perform karma because there's no deliberate action there. Or you can take a birth as a human being. Now, when you take a birth as a human being, then remember the introductory session 3 that I did, where we talk about the fundamental human problem. There is self-consciousness. Self-consciousness leads to self-comparison. Self-comparison leads to desires that we set for ourselves as against somebody else, right? And then we pursue those goals. Some of us do it positively, some of us do it not so positively, and we go into this deliberate action. We incur karma. The benefits of the karma we incur, we experience in this birth itself, but some part we don't. And so when we leave the planet, some part of it goes back and adds into the Sanchita karma, right? And this is possible only in a human birth, right? And the only way we can exhaust the Sanchita karma is by taking births and is by doing certain actions. In the case of trees and animals, kind of species, the actions are completely pre-programmed. Only exhaustion of karma happens. No fresh karma is added. But whereas in case of a human birth, fresh karma is possible. And the benefits of it you enjoy in that time itself, if you're alive, or it gets added back to the Sanchita karma, right? Now, so which means in all possibility, if you're born as a human being, the Sanchita karma database can keep exploding in size, right? So it was initially millions, then became billions, then became trillions of punyam and papam entries which are there, right? Now, in every birth, whether it's a birth as any species. In every birth, a subset of the Sanchita karma is taken for experience, is taken for manifestation. And that subset is called as prarabdha karma, the second karma in the karma trayam that I would like to introduce. The total bundle, the sack, is called Sanchita karma. The part of it, the subset which we bring for a specific birth for experiencing and exhaustion, right, is called prarabdha karma. So when I am born with a prarabdha karma, right? And that prarabdha karma becomes experiences for me. Right from childhood, I start experiencing. For example, even as a child, I go through health issues, I become a sick child. That's exhaustion of those karma, right? If as a child, I am very arrogant, I start committing sin, like say a Duryodhana in Mahabharata. Right from a very, very young age, he started committing sins under the guidance of his uncle, right? So it doesn't matter. Age is not an issue. We go through experiences, right? We go through experiences, we go through pleasurable experience, we go through painful experience, right? Sukham and dukham. So the prarabdha karma starts getting exhausted. So that particular small subset, which is the database of prarabdha karma, entries are exhausted. Top, it keeps going, right? Fine. And of course, when the prarabdha karma is empty, our life ends, right? Because that life is over, right? Now, but we don't keep quiet. In a human birth, we do deliberate actions. And deliberate action means new karma. A new karma goes into a local database, which is called aghamya karma. That's a third entry. So karma trayam means three karmas. First is the total package, which is sanchita karma. Then the subset of it, which is directly relevant for me in this birth or any birth for that matter, is prarabdha karma, right? And the new actions that I do, the commit, goes into a local database called aghamya karma. And of course, that karma's pala can be experienced by me in this birth itself, possible. Like I slapped somebody, somebody slapped me back. Right? I robbed somebody and I lost some money. So the karma pala can get exhausted of the aghamya karma in this birth itself. But which means that experiences can happen in this birth itself for me, right? Not necessary that it is exhausted. The aghamya karma database need not be exhausted when I leave the planet. I leave the planet the moment the prarabdha karma database is empty. And when I leave the planet, the aghamya karma database need not be empty because all the experiences, all the karmas that I've gathered newly, maybe something is still remaining, and that something that is still remaining will obviously get added back to the sanchita karma. Right? And the whole cycle continues again and again and again and again. And it's been happening for trillions and trillions of years for each of us. Right? I think we need to understand the whole workflow very correctly in terms of how it happens, or rather what it happens. Right? Now, which means, let me just quickly run through this visual because it's a very powerful visual. I think I would possibly want you to, take a snap of this visual. Of course, before the next episode, I will send this as a visual recall for you. Right? The entire karma database, which we carried, is called the sanchita karma. One subset with which we are born in this birth to experience something is prarabdha karma. And we go through that experiences and keep emptying the prarabdha karma through various experiences of pain and pleasure, right? Is exhausted, and then our life ends. No. As it is getting exhausted, we are also, as a human being, incurring further karma because deliberate actions, and that gets into a local karma database called aghamya karma. It's called aghamya. So the three correct pronunciations for the word is sanchita karma, no long vowel there. Prarabdha karma, there is one long vowel there. Aghamya karma, there are two long vowels there, right? So, and when I leave the planet, the prarabdha karma is empty. That's why when somebody says, we say his prarabdham is over and he is gone. When you say his prarabdham is over, that means that that particular database is empty. Whatever he came to this planet to experience is over, right? And something more can still remain in aghamya karma, which will get added back into the sanchita karma package. This is the workflow that we must be very, very familiar with. And I think we should have a thorough grounding on this so that we can answer out of the 100 questions that hit our mind, at least easily 50 to 60 questions we ourselves can answer, right? Now, a child which is born and dies in 3 days, maybe the prarabdha karma was very, very small package it came from, is just born with and it got over, right? And that's it. Maybe as a child, it did not do many deliberate actions. It was too young to do deliberate action in the first 3 days, right? So there was no agamya karma for that child. Prarabdha karma got over and that's it. And then the next birth, right? Or somebody, maybe the next birth is maybe an animal birth, and so there is no agamya karma at all. And born as a simple tree that died in about 100 years, and so that's it. You go back. So I think each of us carries this. Now we have to now connect it to Sharira Trayam, right? Where is Sanchita Karma stored? Where is Prarabdha Karma stored? And where is Agamya Karma stored? Obviously not on the Stula Shariram. No, it is not on the physical body. Because if it is on the physical body, when we die, the body is burnt. Then that will also go. Obviously, it will be in the Sukshma Sharira. Okay. In the Sukshma Sharira, it is there. But what about the Sanchita Karma? The Sanchita Karma, connected back to the mind we talked about. Mind had 4 components, if you recall. Manas, which is the sensory part of the mind. We talked about Buddhi, which is the intellect. We talked about Ahamkara, which is the ego. And we also talked about Chitta, which is a memory. Now, it is there in the mind. And we also saw mind is part of Sukshma Sharira. Mind is not part of Stula Sharira. Right? Which means these have to be stored as memories. Right? And there are layers of memories. Some parts of the memories are just not accessible to us. But it is there. So when we leave, connected back to the Pancha Vayu that we talked about, Udhana Vayu separates the Stula Sharira from the Sukshma Sharira. And the data is carried in the Sukshma Sharira. Right? And during the Sukshma Sharira, at some point in time, the Sukshma Sharira also gets destroyed. It gets carried back into the Karana Sharira. Karana Sharira is what we saw as a seed. The intelligence, like the seed has got the intelligence to become a tree. And that carries the entire Sanchita Karma database. Right? So now coming back, I have not added the slide here. Maybe next time I'll add it here. We talked about the different aspects of the Sharira Trayam. We talked about Sharira Trayam is made up of components, made up of the Panchabhutas. And we have to talk about the lifespan of the Sharira Trayam. The physical body, the Stula Shariram, has a lifespan of about roughly 100 years. Whereas the Sukshma Shariram, which has the mind and which has all these components stored, and that is available till possibly the whole Pralayam takes place. That means the whole, at the end of the Kali Yuga, everything gets wound up. Till then, it's available. So you die, the Sukshma Sharira and Stula Sharira are separated. Stula Sharira is birth. Sukshma Sharira takes another Stula Sharira, comes with another Prarabdha Karma database, goes through that experience. Again, at the time of death, those two are separated by Udana Vayu. And again, the Stula Sharira takes another Stula Sharira. The Sukshma Sharira takes another Stula Sharira. The whole cycle continues. Very logical way of understanding, a very logical way things are happening, and the intelligence is operating behind this. And it's a huge cosmic law which is operating behind this. And there is no server, there is no multi-layered n-tier architecture of a server having all the data stored in somewhere. No, it's all there within an individual jiva. There is no monitoring, there is no manager, there is no leader, there is no CEO. There is no central database that can crash. The structure is very simple. We carry, we go. That's it. Right? So I think we need to understand this entire workflow so correctly. Right? Now, I'm going to take an example to explain the whole thing using a simple expense sheet that I maintain. Okay. I'll give you about 30, 40 seconds to run through this Excel sheet. If there are some arithmetic errors, please don't focus on that. I might have made some calculation errors. Doesn't matter, right? Let's get this right. I start with a bank balance, which is my corpus of 1 crore. My focus is January 2023. And for January 2023, I withdraw 1 lakh and that's it. My bank account is closed. I cannot withdraw anything more. I can withdraw only in February. That's it. Okay. I take that 1 lakh. Then I start transacting in January 2023. For groceries, I spent about 10,000 rupees. For entertainment, around 5,000 rupees. Hospitalization, I fall sick. I spent about 30,000 rupees. Then I also do some teaching and earn some revenue, which is 25,000. Travel 12,000, clothing 8,000. Then I had made some investments long before, and those are giving me 20,000 as income, right? Then travel 10,000, or maybe this traveled twice, and maybe that's why I mentioned it twice, right? Sorry, that was a mistake, right? So I was just covering up. Totals is 1,15,000, all right? Now, but please remember, I came into this world January with 1 lakh. And I've actually spent 1,15,000. How is that possible? Because I've earned something in between. I've earned about 45,000 rupees. And so that additional 15,000 got funded by that 45,000. But when January 31st came, I was left with a surplus of 30,000, which will get added back to my 1 crore. So February 1st, I have 1 crore, 30,000 with me as balance. And I'm sure you will be able to map the different elements to this particular visual, right? So the 1 crore that I had as corpus is my Sanchita Karma, right? The 1 lakh that I withdrew for January 2023 is my Prarabdha Karma that I have to spend. If I don't, get carried, but I have to spend, right? The January 2023 is my life, 1st to 31st. First I am born, 31st I am gone, right? And I have to go through different experiences. What are those experiences? I have to eat, I have to buy food. That's one experience. I have to go through experience of hunger. Right? Hospitalization. I have to go through an experience of hospitalization, which is painful. Right? I earned a lottery. I have to go through that experience. Right? So each of them are experiences. So the money is being spent. It's going on. Right? And I also earn some money in between. Do teaching income is some 20,000 rupees, which is deliberate action. Right? I had invested deliberately, so that is also fructifying now. So the investment is coming, and that's Agamya Karma. So the Agamya Karma is 45,000 rupees. And that 45,000 rupees, 15,000 rupees is funded for the extra Prarabdha Karma 1 lakh. And the remaining 30,000 goes back into the Sanchita Karma. Right? Now it's a very simple accounting statement to understand what happens. Then February has to start. February, I have to withdraw and come into February. That's it. Right. Now, you can replace a couple of these entries here. For example, teaching income, 25,000 rupees. Instead of teaching income, let's assume I stole some money from my friend. When he was not watching, I put my hand into his suitcase and I got 25,000 rupees out. From a cash flow angle, it is still an income for me. The entry is still 25,000 rupees only. The whole equation still remains. It's 45,000 total earning, balance carried forward 30,000, right? But remember, it is not teaching income. It is actually stolen money, right? Now, this is where this sheet differs from understanding what happens here. Okay. There is a difference between, please recall one of the earlier visuals where we said Drishtapalam and Adrishtapalam. Drishta is what you experience here and now. Adrishta is what you carry, right? As Punyam and Papam. Right? Now, when I imagine, I'm just giving you some very, very serious examples. I am walking on the road and there's nobody on the road and I see a person dying. And I see that the person is wearing some jewels and some diamond rings. I look around, there is nobody, so I steal off the diamond rings and the jewels and I leave and the person dies. Okay. My Drishtapalam is I have the jewels which are valued at say 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs. I have got a positive Drishtapalam, right? It is still a earning for me and I can still spend that money, right? But what am I carrying as a Punyam and Papam? What is the Adrishtapalam that I have carried along? I've left a person to die whom I could have saved. And I have stolen somebody else's property. Now that Adrishtapalam will manifest at a later point in time. Maybe I will lose some money. In fact, if you go back to this, there is already an entry called money lost, 40,000 rupees. But how did I lose that money? More than how did I lose the money? I think we need to ask a question. Why did I lose that money? Right? That money lost 40,000 rupees could possibly be a manifestation of an Adrishtapalam of something that I did wrong earlier on the time scale. This money will go away. Right? I think we need to understand this pretty deeply. The one visual that I want a very strong understanding by all of you is this visual. Right? We have to be very solid in our foundation. Right? So I thought this is a very simpler way to explain. Right? For example, instead of spending on travel, say 12,000 rupees. Let's assume I spent 12,000 rupees to kill someone. I paid some money to a paid killer. And I said 12,000 rupees I'm giving, you go and kill this person. For me, it is still an expense. My Drishtapalam is money is gone. My Adrishtapalam is also negative. Right? So my Drishtapalam can be positive, Adrishtapalam can be positive. My Drishtapalam can be negative, Adrishtapalam can be negative. Various combinations are possible. Right? It depends on what we take. Yeah. Now, there's a nice example of, it happened in my first job in Wipro, where a very highly respected individual submitted certain false bills and got sacked the very next day. Right? And later we realized that this person has been submitting false bills for the last four and a half years. Right? So that person enjoyed a Drishtapalam of enjoying those reimbursements for bills for which are fake bills. But the Adrishtapalam was once that person was caught and that's it, you lost the job. And not only lost the job, the reference was so bad that the person just couldn't find a job for another 3-4 years. So when we talk about Adrishtapalam, the Adrishtapalam can be very positive, yes. Or the Drishtapalam can be very negative, but the Adrishtapalam can be very positive. It's like going to a gym and working out. The Drishtapalam is very painful. For 1 hour when you work out, the palam is very, very painful. But the benefit it gives you maybe 4 years, 5 years down the line is very, very positive. When we deny ourselves luxuries, when we deny ourselves good food, maybe the Drishtapalam is negative, but Adrishtapalam is very positive. So we get multiple combinations, but everything is into this single database, right? Now, what is Mukti? I'm using the word Mukti here instead of Moksha. I am right now using the two words interchangeably, even though they are completely different, right? But right now, at this level of depth, before we go to the next level of depth, let's use them interchangeably. So what is Mukti? Mukti is nothing but an empty Sanchita karma, right? And that means I have nothing else. Right. Now, one logical question that could hit our mind at this point in time is, right, can karma be transferred? There are lots of questions that come to our mind. Right? Like I do a negative karma and I transfer it to somebody. I do a positive karma and I transfer it to somebody. I make somebody else suffer. Right? No, the whole architecture is such that individually we are all on a single track journey. We are just connected to others, that's all. We all look like one family, we are all connected. Yes, we are all interacting with each other, all that is all fine. If you are in trouble, I help you. If I am in trouble, you help me. All that is all fine. But individually, we are all unique. I recall a quote of Osho, which is a very powerful quote, right? I am neither superior to anybody, nor inferior to anybody, nor equal to anybody. I am unique. Right? And I have a track of my exhaustion. Karma cannot be transferred. So obviously you can ask questions like, good deeds of parents will go to children. No, good deeds of parents are not going to children. Sorry, you're mistaken. You plant a tree and we die. The children and grandchildren are enjoying the fruits of the tree. So you think that the tree that you planted, which is punya, which is enjoyed by your children and grandchildren. No, it is not. They are enjoying the fruits because they had done some karma which made them enjoy these fruits. It so happens that they enjoy the fruits of the tree you planted. That's all. They just happen to be connected to you. If not your tree, some other tree would have given them the fruits because they anyway deserve to get that. Right? There is no transfer of karma. I have to experience what I do. That's it. Right? First clarification. Right? So which means there are statements like you do a punya, half the punya will go to the spouse. When you do a yajna, half the punya will go to the spouse. Now, what's the meaning of half the punya will go to the spouse? What does it mean? We need to understand it deeply. Right? Because when you do a yajna, there's a whole lot of things that need to be done in a yajna. You are doing certain parts. Maybe your spouse is doing certain parts. Right? According to Dharma Shastra, possibly there are certain things which only a spouse can do. So she is doing it. Certain things only you can do, you are doing it. But together is what is the entire yajna. So the benefit cannot come to you alone because you are performing the yajna. No, there are a lot of others who are doing it. Everybody needs to share. Right? But if they are not doing it with commitment, please recall the Sankalpa Siddhi that we did. If they are not doing it with Shraddha, obviously the benefit won't go just because they are their spouse. No. There is no transfer of karma. Right? It looks like it is connected. In fact, there's a very beautiful example that Pujya Swamiji will give us. You know, how human beings mistake the cause and effect connection. It seems a father was traveling on the flight with a small little daughter, 6 years. And the daughter saw the light come up. Please fasten your seat belt. Ting sound, right? Please fasten your seat belt. And after 2 minutes, the plane shook. Then the light went off, smooth travel for half an hour. Then again, ting, please fasten your seat belt. Right? And then after 2 minutes, the plane started shaking. This happened about 3-4 times. And the child called the air hostess and told, please ask that uncle not to switch on the light because every time the light is switched on, the plane is shaking. Right? Now, it's a very beautiful example to say, your human mind has a tendency to connect what happens before as the cause for what happens later. Right? The light is coming first and the plane is shaking later. Right? That doesn't mean the light is the cause for the shaking. It's like you turn the indicator light in your car. If you want to turn right, you turn the right indicator. You turn the right indicator before you make the turn. Question is, are you turning because you turn the right indicator, or because you're going to turn in the future, you turn the right indicator now? Right? So the cause and effect, we need to understand very clearly. Whatever happens first need not be the cause for whatever happens next. Not necessary. Right? So I plant a tree and somebody enjoyed, my children enjoyed the fruits of the tree, does not mean my planting the tree is the cause for them to enjoy this. No, we have got the whole equation wrong. Right? So karma transfers, not possible. We are all on a unique track and we all have to experience what we did, right? And there's nobody watching us. Absolutely nobody watching us. Please recall that video of an artificial intelligence-based boarding pass video that I showed you. Nobody is watching us, right? The entire intelligence operates on its own, right? Second, how do blessings and curses work? Somebody blesses me. So I become okay. Somebody curse me. I become bad. Do blessings and curses also work? Lots of questions connected to karma. Blessings and curses, how does it work then? Right. So we fall at the feet of somebody and we seek blessing. We seek blessing from gods. Right. I am not performing any action. Actually, you are. You are performing a different kind of an action. I'll take an example. This may be a very tough example, but I'm going to say it that can answer many of your questions. About 150 years ago, what I'm narrating is not an imaginary story. It's a real event that happened. Okay. Of course, over the years, when it got passed down from person to person, a little extra masala might have been added here and there. That I'm not sure. But the fact of the story is real. Okay. About 150 odd years ago, when sati was in practice, those of you who don't know what sati is when your husband dies, the either falls into the fire and dies or is thrown into the fire and killed. Right? It's a very barbaric kind of a practice which was there, and then of course there's a court order and government intervened and abolished sati and all that happened. About 150 years ago, a man was married to two women and he died. And the second wife willingly walked into the pyre and committed sati. The first wife was not at all interested to die. But the practice was so prevalent at that point in time that people literally bundled her and threw her into the pyre. Okay. As she started to burn, she gave a curse that in this entire family for generations, every woman will suffer what I suffered, and every woman will die as a widow. She gave that curse. You go, I want to relate back to the Sankalpa Siddhi session. You make a Sankalpa under what condition? And what is the power of the condition? The Shraddha, the commitment, and the power. When somebody is dying, at that moment you make a Sankalpa, and that has a huge power. Refer chapter 8 Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna talks about the importance of the last thought when you leave the planet. Right? The last word that you utter when you leave the planet, and how it decides your next birth, what all happens. Right? Right? So that extremely gruesome moment, that lady passed a curse that every lady in this family will die as a widow. Of course, she made an assumption that the practice of sati will continue and that every woman who dies as a widow will experience the same pain that she underwent. Right? There's no way she could have assumed that in future things will change. Now, that family has been tracked for at least 4 generations now. Every woman in that family is becoming a widow. And we are still tracking the family. Okay? Right? Question is this. Are people or the women becoming because of the curse, in which case we are completely undoing all that we discussed about karma so far? How can somebody else's mistake affect me? It cannot. It's only my deliberate action should affect me. I have not committed anything deliberately. Right? Now, we have to ask questions like, should becoming a widow is a curse or it's a blessing? For some women, it's a blessing actually. Because if it's an abusive husband and the husband dies, maybe the woman starts leading a fabulous life after his death. Right? So whether it's a blessing or curse is not what we are talking. We are talking about a woman becoming a widow. Because of the curse? No. What actually happens is different. The curse is a sankalpa, and that sankalpa is let out to the universe, and the Jagat has to manifest that sankalpa somewhere. Because that sankalpa had huge power because of the circumstances in which the sankalpa was made. Right? Which means for generations, the men folks will die before the women folks. Okay, that has to happen. Right? I cannot force it on the women. I am talking like the intelligence now. I cannot force it on the women. So what do? I select women who have that in their prarabdha karma. In their prarabdha karma, they have to experience living alone without their spouse. It is there in their prarabdha karma. The intelligence will make sure such women are attached to this family. Right? Now, if you carefully see, it is not that they are becoming a widow because of the curse of someone which was done 150 years ago. No. They are only experiencing their prarabdha karma. That's all. They are becoming a widow because of their own karma only. But they happen to be attached to this family. That's all. And that attachment happened because of the sankalpa siddhi. That siddhi has to happen of a sankalpa made. Remember, the sankalpa can be made for myself or for my family or for the world at large. And the sankalpa has to have power. And when somebody is dying, that too being killed, that moment has huge powers in the Sukshma Sharira. Right? And that power will get carried. And the same thing works with blessings as well. Right? It's not that somebody's debt is being repaid by, for example, if a father has taken a lot of debt and he died, and the son has to repay the debt to the father. Right? No, the son is experiencing his prarabdha karma. That's it. He has to earn and pay somebody else's debt. That's it. And he's doing it. Imagine a child born in a very rich family, hugely rich family. The child has not done anything to enjoy the wealth. It's the parents and grandparents who have slogged their backs off to earn that wealth. But the child is just enjoying it. No, it is not. The child has earned that experience through the prarabdha karma. And the child is attached to this family. That's it. So that experience happens for the child. Nothing else. Right? So we need to understand, if we get the basics in place, I think tons and tons of questions related to all this will get answered by ourselves. Right? Of course, then what is prayaschitta karma? Right? I do a mistake and I do a prayaschitta, that mistake will go? No. A simple example for a prayaschitta karma is going and telling a sorry to somebody whom you hurt. That's prayaschitta karma. I hurt somebody and I went and tell that person very genuinely, I am very sorry about this. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. And the person says it's all right. Will it erase the karmic effect? No, it will not. There is a dent. The wound may heal, but the scar remains. Right? The wound may heal, but the scar remains. Right? And the person may say, yeah, it's all right. Let's proceed in the future. You know what that sorry did? That sorry only created a better future for you. That deliberate karma of sorry created some benefits for you in the future. But the previous karma's effect, the hurt relationship still stays. Many people think when I do prayaschitta karma, everything will go away. No, everything doesn't go away. It only creates a new karma. Right? For example, if I have to get drenched in rain, if I have done a prayaschitta karma, someone will possibly give me an umbrella. That's all. The rain will still happen. The rain doesn't stop. Maybe the impact of that karma for me will be reduced because it's a new karma and it's a new benefit to me. That's all. It's coming out of agamya karma. It is not coming out of prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma, nothing gets diluted. It has to be exhausted. The extra benefit I enjoy because of a prayaschitta karma is coming through agamya karma. We need to understand that well. Right. Of course, there can be tons and tons and tons of questions. Right? All of them can get answered logically if we have a strong, very, very strong foundation in place. Right? Now, karma itself can be kayika karma, vachika karma, or manasa karma. I do some karma by action. I do some karma by words. I do some karma by manas, that is my mind. All of them are karmas only. we need to map it to the next topic, which is beyond these 4 topics, which is the 3 gunas. Sattva guna, Rajas guna, and Tamo guna. Right? So, your Kayika karma can be any of these 3. Your Vachika karma can be any of these 3. And the Manasa karma can be any of these 3. We will come to that level of depth when we go to that topic. But right now, we just need to understand that karma is of 3 types: Kayika karma, Vachika karma, and Manasa karma. When I do a puja, when I gather flowers, when I assemble, when I wash the idols, when I do an arati, all of them are Kayika karma, physical action. When I chant mantras, that's Vachika karma. When I do a japa, when I am completely concentrated in the mind, and that is Manasa karma. And every puja has to have a combination of all the 3, right? Gita asked a question at the beginning: why am I lighting a lamp when I'm in front of the Lord, right? We need a representation of the 5 bhutas, because we pray ultimately the 5 bhutas, panchabhutas. So we keep water, we use water a lot, right? And we try to create all the 5 senses. We light an agarbatti so that the smell is fine in that room. We light a lamp so that Agni is brought in. Right? We ring a bell so that the sound element comes in. Right? So effectively what we do is we combine everything, and ultimately the prayer that we do goes to the Panchabhutas only. It is not to the idol, because everything is created out of the Panchabhutas. Right? The only missing link here is how your mind is attached to this. Many people do the Kayika karma very mechanically. In fact, I've seen some people doing mantra japam, watching television news, political news, and they are chanting Vishnu Sahasranamam. Right? Yeah. So the mind is not connected. When the mind is not connected, there is a concern there. Right? So coming back and connecting it to the Pancha Koshas. All the koshas must align. That's what I said in Sankalpa Siddhi session. It has to connect together. So the crux of the matter is alignment of the Pancha Koshas. Right? We need to get that right. To give an example, when I am doing a puja, right? When I'm saying Mahaganapatiye Namaha Asanam Samarpayami, which means I'm offering a seat to Ganesha. Can I also close my eyes and mentally visualize a Ganesha coming and sitting in an asanam which is possibly diamond studded? After all, I'm doing things in the mind. I can be very generous there. I can imagine a Ratna Simhasana, as they call it. Imagine Ganesha actually coming and sitting there. Now, you know what you're actually doing? You're making sure that the mind is not distracted anywhere else. You're concentrating and focusing your mind on that. That's it. Right? Or when you say Mahaganapatiye Namaha Padayoho Padyam Samarpayami, that means what? I'm washing the feet of Ganesha. Can you pause there and visualize actually as if you are washing the feet of the Ganesha who is sitting in front of you? Hastayogo Argyam Samarpayami. You give a little water and the Ganesha drinks it. Imagine as if the Ganesha is drinking it. You know what you're actually doing? You are aligning nicely the physical sheath, the pranic sheath, and the mind sheath. When you chant the mantra loud, it is at a pranic level. Whereas when you chant the mantra in your mind, the prana is separated out. Watch yourself. Like I'm talking now. I can talk only when I'm exhaling. I cannot talk when I'm inhaling. I have to pause to inhale. And any talking or mantra chanting happens when I'm exhaling. Right? So when I'm chanting a mantra loud, I am on the pranic layer. But when I'm chanting a mantra in the mind, the pranic layer is separated out. I am in the manas layer. And that's why it's more difficult to chant mantras in the mind. And in this case, can I also bring in visualization in? When I'm doing a yajna for Sri Rudra, can I imagine as if Rudra is in front of me and I'm offering it to him? Can I visualize completely in the mind? And that creates tremendous power. Rather than blindly saying, right? Ganapati Namaha, Argyam Samarpayami, Achamanyam Samarpayami, right? Madhuvarkam Samarpayami, Snanam Samarpayami. You just keep on going, right? And then your mind is somewhere else. The moment the mind is somewhere else, we have lost it, because we have lost something, which is the manasa karma is lost. The karma is only happening at vachika level. That means at the word level is happening. That's all. It is like saying a sorry without actually feeling it. Mechanically telling somebody, hey, I'm sorry. You don't mean it, and you know you don't mean it. That apology doesn't have value, right? Because the mind has to back. That's what is entire, in psychology, we say authenticity, right? Authenticity comes from your mind, your attitude, your mindset, right? Manasa karma has to be very strong, right? And we need all this alignment of the panchakoshas, right? Now, I would like to give you a short preview of what you're likely to undergo in the next session, right? So what we're going to do next session, next episode, I just want to give you a glimpse of it, right? When we talk about a mind, there is a prana which is sitting inside us, called, out of the pancha prana, we call it just prana, which keeps sucking air, right? And it's an energy inside my sukshma sharira. Air is outside. It keeps sucking it. Oxygen keeps coming in. And the moment the prana dies, the prana stops. The air is still there outside, but nothing comes in because the sucking energy is stopped. The prana is dead, right? In the same way, is it possible that there is a prana inside us which keeps sucking different thoughts from the universe of thoughts, right? Does it mean that I think, that phrase, I think, is itself to be evaluated? Whether do I really think, or thought this hits me? Why some ideas hit some minds and some ideas don't hit some other minds? Why? Right? Why some ideas hit our mind at a specific time, why it is not hitting at a different time? Why? So the very concept of I think has to be evaluated. Do I really think? Or is it's like saying I breathe? No, you don't breathe. Sorry. Right? It's like saying I think. Do I really think? Or the question to ask is, thoughts, are they generated or are they attracted? Like how the prana is a magnetic vayu, magnetic gas, or magnetic vayu is a better word. Similarly, thoughts, are they also magnetic? It's also part of prana. This is what we will explore in detail, because this understanding is important for us to move to intuition, which is beyond intellect. Why some thoughts, very powerful thoughts, great ideas, pass through some minds, why it is not passing through ordinary minds? We need to explore this. Okay, I will conclude with this slide just to help you recall. We kept this as a black box in the previous session, right? Avastatraya, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. And there is a fourth quadrant where identity consciousness is conscious, whereas there are no thoughts in the mind. What is that state? What does that state do to us? How do we reach that state? Right? And how do we generate power? So these are the things that we will see in the next session, whether thoughts are attracted or thoughts are generated, right? And how it's possible to move away from intellect to an intuition zone where we keep getting fresh knowledge to us instantly, right?